Let me first tell you about the author. Dr. Shelton, the orthodontist, graduated in the top 1% and the youngest member of his dental class. He went on to earn certification in specialty of orthodontics, earned further certification as diplomate of the American Board of Orthodontics, is a professor in orthodontics at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, past president, Greater Metropolitan New York Dental Society, and the New York Academy of Orthodontics, received countless top Invisalign provider awards acknowledging the highest ranked orthodontist in the U.S. Chip Shelton, the musician now, is a multi-flutist playing 10 different types of flutes from piccolo to subcontrabass flute. Considered to have been the first jazz flute major at the Manhattan School of Music, woodwind specialist playing 6 saxophones from sopranino to C tenor, also clarinet and bass clarinet. He's a vocalist, keyboardist, and multiple percussionist. Has 10 critically acclaimed album releases. Album number 11, Special Days Each Year, is slated for release June 19, 2021. His current releases consist of the Excel into Careers book we are here discussing today, and his co-themed album of original songs titled Plan B Dream Music. The music album and autographed copies of the book are available online at chipshelton.com. He's been featured as a performer and workshop presenter at conferences, conventions, jazz festivals, and venues like Lincoln Center, Town Hall, and Birdland, as well as countless others throughout the U.S. and abroad. Welcome, Chip Shelton.
Thank you so much, Kiana.
Wow, first of all, that's incredible that you've done all of that. I'm really just shocked that you've been able to accomplish so many things and in 2 careers. First of all, people want to know, how have you been able to do it?
Well, let me just start by saying, Kiana, thank you so much for being here with us today. And to say to the viewers that if you're like myself and many others that we feature in the book, you've discovered a passion for maybe the creative arts or athletics, and you know it's something that you want to pursue fully, as I did. But as you look around, you realize that sustained success is never, ever guaranteed. And what we want to do is show you in the book and today some how-tos to be able to harmonize your passion with your other interests. So as to be able to sustain your pursuit of what you love the most as long as you choose to. And regarding your question, Kiana, how did I do it? Let me just give you an overview of the first part of it. And you know, I identified that passion, and I knew I needed to express it. But growing up in coal mining town in West Virginia, looking around for others who were full-time in music or athletics even, which I loved, it wasn't happening. So just going full speed ahead for music or athletics, you know, it was going to be a tough road. And so I started to, at that very early age of 6th grade, to think about emulating a dentist I admired. So that, you know, that got me going in the direction of finding something else that would give me, nurture and sustain my ability to do what I loved. And so as I got into in that dental training, I started to realize that it was pulling me away from what I loved big time. And I learned then that I had to discipline myself to devote a set number of hours to what I love, which is music, and pursue excellence in the dental training. So I had to learn how to sleep more efficiently. Um, I established different workspace areas for each discipline. And I was on my pathway of pursuing training and certification in 2 careers at once.
Now, before continuing with the author, let's say hello to 2 other panelists we have here. They are the book's contributing editors, Leslie Shelton Walters and Clifford A. Shelton. They have known the author for their entire lives. Being their dad, he affectionately refers to them as Les and Cliff. Welcome.
Thank you so much. So yes, I am Leslie Shelton Walters. I am the author's daughter. And so I'm proud to have been here from the very beginning of this whole project, from conception to birth. And so I've been very proud to lend my, writing skills, administrative skills to help bring this to completion, starting from just transcription of interviews to editing to just molding this to become the best representation and version of my father's journey that it could be. And so we're very happy and proud of the finished project, and just hopeful that it'll bring, confident actually, that it'll bring tremendous value to the reader in their career journey too.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution, Leslie, to the book. Now, hi, Cliff. How are you?
Hello, Kiana. How's it going?
Tell us briefly about your involvement in bringing this book to fruition.
All right. Well, once again, thank you, Kiana, for being here and taking the time to do this interview. The main point of my involvement was really to give this book its current form and structure. One of the things that we set out to do was to really identify what were the key principles that really helped sustain my father's success, and also others that have walked this similar path. And, we found out after actually sitting down that many of these principles that I'm sure Chip will expand on further in this interview were things that he and others didn't really consciously know at the beginning. So to identify them and pull them out is something that we're passing on to the readers of the most value. In addition, the images and the photo galleries and the artworks, I helped to organize all of that. Thanks.
Wow. So tell us, what is the overarching purpose of the book? What do you hope to achieve with this?
Well, let me start by saying that if it weren't for the sharp minds of my support team, my wife, Kathleen, daughter, Leslie, son, Cliff, this would never have happened, this book. They all had publishing experience well ahead of mine. So I'm so thankful that they pushed me along and helped make it happen. So the purpose of the book is twofold, as we came up with after we got into it. And the first purpose is to provide mentorship for those potential 2-career people out there who could benefit from knowing how I and others do it. And it's the mentorship that we all wish we had. We wish we had somebody who had written a book to show us how to do what we were stumbling our way through in trying and pursuing excellence in 2 careers. The second purpose of the book is to provide the reader with some principle-based how-tos that will help you avoid having to piecemeal and improvise. You can zero in on your 2-career goals, and we provide that guidance and try to be the example, or we are the example that for those people, interested persons, that it is possible. So twofold purpose: mentorship and principle-based how-tos.
Wow. Now, I noticed in the book that you key in on 2 terms, one being a lifestyle choice, and the second is Plan B. Can you explain these two themes to the would-be reader?
Yes, let's start, Kiana, with decades ago, people started talking about a plan A and a plan B. Plan A usually consisted of going for what you love, and that's, just zero in on that. And oftentimes there came a juncture where out of necessity, one would have to take on other responsibilities, a day job, et cetera. And these things were a nuisance factor pulling you away from what you really enjoyed. And so that's conventional plan A and plan B. What we bring forth in the book is plan B, spelled B-E, which is, we define as a proactive strategy of pursuing two careers simultaneously to fortify the likelihood of maintaining a lifestyle of choice. So what's a lifestyle of choice? It's an important component of self-expression whereby one proactively plans for where and how one prefers to live. Where and how one prefers to live is it's very important in anyone's life, and this is a way to actually pursue what we love, and pursue and make it possible for us to have a lifestyle of choice. So it's a both and approach to life and career planning rather than the usual either or. So it's more in tune. We'll show you how it is more in tune with who we are at the heart level, and plan B, spelled B-E, where we can pursue what we love and have a lifestyle of choice, is what we show you how to do in the book.
Now, if someone were to say, sign me up for a lifestyle choice, how actually would they go about doing that?
Well, Kiana, it's basically a 5-step process. The first 4 steps you can do from where you are. First, honor the calling that you and the gift that you've discovered within yourself, and commit that it is an important ingredient in your happiness and your fulfillment of your purpose. Step 2, now go inside and identify some other aptitudes and abilities and interests that you have. We all have something else we're good at in addition. Step 3, do some research and find some careers that actually make use of some of these other skills that we have and interests that we have. Step 4, go even deeper into those careers and cherry pick 1 or 2 which will allow you some flexibility in your work schedule. That one is key, because if you're going to pursue the excellence in both areas, you gotta have some leeway. So once you get those 4 things handled, now you are set up to go forth and pursue training, certification, education in both careers, to have that plan B function for you towards a lifestyle of choice, and to be able to pursue what you love for as long as you choose to.
Wow, interesting. So this is a principles-based book. It's like a how-to, if you will. Can you, Cliff, explain to us how the principles in the book highlight, the highlights of some of these principles, rather, and their importance?
Yes, thank you, Kiana. So, as I was mentioning before, what we had to do to put this book together is really sit down and identify what were the principles that we found universal, with Chip's career and his success and other people that we saw walking the same path or knew had success in the same way of a dual career. And so that led to the 13 principles that we feature throughout this book. There are 13 of them that we found universal. So, out of the 13, it's the first principle and the last principle, principle 1 and principle 13, that kind of serve as pillars to this whole process. These two principles basically orient the reader to understand how to organize their day-to-day and also the entire expanse of their career. That being principle 1, business before pleasure, and principle 13, which is strategic planning. I'll let Chip expand on those further as we go on. But sandwiched within the first and the 13th principle are the more subtle and difficult to recognize principles that we were able to pull out. These include many of the soft skills and hidden advantages you can accumulate as you structure your plan B and your lifestyle of choice. So, for example, principle number 9, maintaining a steady state of emotion. Or principle number 4, synergizing your career. Let me point out one principle that Chip would regularly adhere to, but for most of his career was unaware of until we sat down and identified it, which is principle number 12. That's differentiation. And this is where you position yourself to be unique in some way.
Now, Chip, I saw in the book that you were playing a flute, but you were playing it vertically, and I've never seen that before. I'm guessing that probably also ties into the principle of differentiation.
Yes, Keon, that ties in big time with differentiation. And we define differentiation as doing something that will set yourself apart from others in your field, in your market. So we're showing that in-blown flute on the screen, but the thing about differentiation is that your colleagues in both careers that you are pursuing have the potential to spend a lot more time and energy in honing in on their one career while you are balancing and honing in on 2 careers. So the principle of differentiation allows you to bridge that gap and to create your own lane to distinguish yourself in your 2 careers. So that in-blown flute, which when I first discovered it was just patented, and I said, that's interesting, Mr. Wesley. And so it was during a time that I was spending a lot of time on preparing for a thing, and performance I had. And when you maintain this position long enough, you get stiff, and if you go past that, you get pain. And it's a very common problem for flutists. And Mr. Wesley had a flute that you could relax your upper body, and it was kind of a challenge to play it. But I said, I like that idea as an alternative to playing this way when I started to tighten up. And so, I actually got good at it. I used it so much to the point that I used it on my first couple of two or three recordings. I was the first on the planet to record with it. So the visuals attracted the critics. They said, what's this all about? And the records all got great critical acclaim. Mr. Wesley said, come on, Chip, you're part of the team. And we travel all over the country demonstrating it at different conventions, et cetera. So, I kind of stumbled into an area of differentiation that made a huge difference in my music career. And on the orthodontic side, mid-career, I was teaching orthodontics, I was practicing orthodontics, and I was doing music. And I decided that, you know, this thing about computerizing your business was not being done very much in orthodontics, especially us experienced practitioners. Some of my younger graduates may have had a computer here and there, but I went to a course and the presenter said, you know, computerization is the thing you're gonna. So I said, okay, I went all out. Computers everywhere, computers at every station, paperless office. And along comes, around that same time, the Invisalign technique gets patented and comes on the market. And they're looking for experienced practitioners who are computerized. And you know, I became a representative of Invisalign company, lecturing on Invisalign, receiving awards regularly, premier provider, top in the country, et cetera. And so inadvertently, that area of differentiation kind of torpedoed my orthodontic career forward. So I would say principle 12, differentiation, as all 13 principles have the potential for this one particularly is interesting in being able to create your own lane. So I would say be open to opportunities to differentiate yourself, to set yourself apart from others in your market.
Wow, interesting. You mentioned earlier that you knew what you wanted to do from very young. Is it possible that others that may not necessarily know at a young age what they want to do to pursue this type of multiple career or plan B, BE?
It is possible and it is advisable. I would say rather than key in on age, I would say that one can embark upon a plan B, BE, at any age and any stage, almost. I was fortunate to get some musical notoriety preschool, and I was fortunate to choose the 2-career path in the 6th grade, but that certainly was unusual. And the real time to start is today, when you decide, okay, I got step 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's go for it. So it's less age related and it's more when one is ready. But speaking of age, I got I got many age stories. I'll tell you a couple. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. So I was a freshman at Howard University Dental School at age 21 when I got my first flute. And as it turned out, I became known as a jazz flutist as my main instrument. 21 is a very, very late start on your main instrument. So fast forward 20 years, I decided to go to a new level musically. Things were humming, they were going well in both careers, but I knew I could go to another level. So I finagled my way into being a freshman at Manhattan School of Music, as I think they said I was their first jazz flute major. And my goal was to spend 2 years there and take the courses that I felt I needed to go to a new level. So there I was in my early 40s with my class members between 18 and 20 years old. And I was the mature student with a young attitude and an attitude of gratitude. and we had fun together. And 2 years later, when I came back on the scene, uh, I had more going on, and almost very in short order, an experienced person in the music business, Kenny Meade, took me under his wing, and he said, "Chip, we're going to do a recording." That was my first recording. He got me on a independent label to get put out, and he started booking me all over the place and managing my career, and it took off unbelievably from that point. So I was in my mid-40s by the time my first recording came out. Now, is that a late start recording-wise? I think so. So age, yes, you have to maintain your health and yourself so you can run the marathon. It's not a sprint. In the book, we give a infographic which shows, just for the reader to see how things unfolded for me at different ages. But everybody's pathway is going to be different, but this is kind of a roadmap for people to look at.
So you mentioned a roadmap. That's very interesting. Can you talk a little bit about how the reader can best apply that example of a roadmap in their lives?
The best way to incorporate the principles in the book, and the roadmap is just an example of how it unfolded for me, but the principles in the book are the best way to get on this successful plan B towards a lifestyle of choice pathway. And it'll just help, those principles will help the reader to avoid the trial and error, and organizing their affairs in harmony with these principles we make it quite, I would say, not easy, but digestible. By firstly, all 13 principles are defined conceptually what they're about. Then Cliff set this up, and then there's a section on, okay, what are the consequences of ignoring this principle or not taking it seriously? What to expect to happen? Each principle is laid out this way. And then thirdly, what are the benefits that you will gain if you understand and start to take advantage and apply each principle? So one principle that, for instance, is, well, as he mentioned, principle 1 and 13 are kind of the pillars. So principle 1, for instance, business before pleasure. The root of that is to do things that are pleasurable only after having completed activities that are business related. And for me, it started as a young child, when my mom would say, "Chip, did you wash the dishes and clean your room? If you want to go out and play with your friends, business before pleasure, young man." So I heard that so often, it became like, yes, ma'am. I knew it was coming, and it became lifestyle for me. And this principle one can utilize daily, and even many times during the day, in deciding how to apportion your time, energy, and resources. At every level, you can make decisions. You can assign business or pleasure assignments to whatever is before you. For me, for instance, while I'm practicing orthodontics and pursuing a music career simultaneously, the orthodontics being the higher earner, I many times had to assign my decisioning towards the orthodontic side. But there came a point at many junctures where a recording was coming up, a tour, a jazz festival, had to complete composition. Anyway, then that coin flipped, and the music side was got the most attention on the business part of the equation. The orthodontic side, some undones would accumulate, but not enough to kill a business. So business before pleasure, I encourage the reader to lean on all the principles in the book, but that's just one example of one that is very important, as they all are, to help you avoid trial and error in organizing your affairs.
Wow. So I also noticed in the book that you provide other examples for the reader. Like the one that stood out for me was the NFL player and the lawyer.
The NFL, National Football League player, Brig Owens. We were college roommates at University of Cincinnati, and he was a star of the football team, star quarterback. He was drafted to the National Football League immediately on graduation and played for 13 years. So during that 13-year career, early on, his classmates, they just knew how smart he was on and off the field, having been my roommate anyway. But they said, Brig, would you represent us in these negotiations with management and with these coaches? So for most of his career, he was representing his teammates in negotiations. But early on, he called me up. He said, Chip, and I'm sitting down with these lawyers on a regular basis. You know what, Chip? I think I could do that too. I said, go for it. So Brig, he arranged to attend law school at night while playing professional ball. In spite of all the blowback and just massive discouragement from management and coaches, he completed his degree. And when he did retire from the field, he then took on a position as head of the NFL Players Association, representing all NFL players in their negotiations, because he had the credentials, he had the experience, and he was great at it. So there's another 2 career success that we profile in the book.
That's incredible. Wow. You mentioned strategic planning a while back. Exactly what do you mean when creating and executing your plan? What did you do specifically?
Thank you, Kiana, for that question. In the book, we talk about that the strategic planning is the other pillar, is principle 13. And in the 80s, when I discovered this way of addressing different facets of one's life, I had a wall-mounted board, the doors that opened, and I'd mark with a magic marker and set goals and things I wanted to do, etc. But nowadays, what we're showing on the screen is a strategic planning template, which you could do on your tablet or your computer, or even a sheet of paper if you wanted. But we talked about 13 principles. Well, there's 13 areas of our life that we identified that one should be working on, or can be working on, ideally should. But the first 2 are obvious: career and financial goals and timetables. You might not make each timetable, but you make adjustments as you go. Some things that might not be as obvious: spiritual self, what are you working on? Physical, what about your vitality and longevity? Because you're on the pathway of a marathon, not a sprint. Physical, mental. What are we doing up here? And what do we want to be doing in the future that's even better? Here's a big one: living space. This is huge, especially in large metropolises. I mean, it can be brutal. So in a Plan B situation, you want to be proactive in planning things about your living space. Family. Do you want to have a family? Well, what about the family you already have? That's stuff you got to work on. So you actually key in and find out what you want to do about these things. Relationships, obviously that ties into family, but relationships even beyond family. What I like to do, what I like to be, what I like to have. Feelings. What feelings do I want to weed out and put in play? And then for everything else, you throw it under miscellaneous to complete the 13 areas of life that you're strategically planning. And this template that we're showing on the screen, just by writing me chip@chipshelton.com, I'll get one out to you immediately. I mean, you could copy something down from the book, but yeah, we'll get it. So the last thing I want to say on strategic planning is that I recommend you visit this at least once weekly if you need to mark your calendar or something, because the longer you stay away from it, the less it's real. The more you review it, the more it becomes real for you. And lastly, I would say that it's a personal project. So resist the urge to discuss this with others on a regular basis, because you want to be working within yourself. You don't want to be working on the self that they think you should be. Right. Strategic planning, yes. Principle number 13.
That's very helpful. Now, you're retired now as an orthodontist, full-time in music. So moving forward, how have your plans changed, or in what ways has your dual career sort of changed in recent years?
Favorably, it has changed in recent years. It's 10 years now that I transitioned the orthodontic practice to one of my former students. I still lecture here and there on orthodontics in Albert Einstein College of Medicine in 2 different orthodontic programs, but it's very sparse. The National Flute Association has me on one of their boards as of the Performance Healthcare Committee, coaching people flutists from around the world on things related to head and neck relative to flute playing. As a matter of fact, this summer issue of Flutist Quarterly, the journal of the National Flute Association, I have an article on playing flute with braces, which I actually went through. So that's on the orthodontic side. I still have one toe in there, but much of my energy is devoted to home life and music life. My 11th release, I think you mentioned it earlier, is coming out, and we call it a one-of-a-kind project. It's 15 original compositions themed for different days that are celebrated yearly on each calendar year. It's called Special Days Each Year. And it's morphing right along, Kiana, quite nicely. And thank you for asking.
Absolutely. Now, The successes you and others in the book provide are really just very, very inspirational. And I know that you've had to overcome some obstacles yourself. Can you kind of detail some of the challenges you've encountered over the course of your two careers?
Well, the two biggies that come to mind, I discovered in undergrad, taking all those difficult pre-dental courses, I needed to pick some so-called easy courses. And one of them I picked was speech. And to my dismay, I discovered that I had a really strong fear of public speaking once I got into that. And it persisted. I mean, well after that, I'm good getting on stage and maybe announcing songs, etc., and then playing some music. But when all you got to do is talk, my heart was pounding. So this was a big obstacle in trying to pursue excellence. So I found a course called the Dale Carnegie course, How to Win Friends, Influence People. It was a 14-week course, and weekly, twice you get in front of the class, all of whom had the same problem, most of them, and you do a structured speech, and they teach you to do this, that, and think this. And so 14 weeks later, coming out of that class, I was feeling confident about public speaking. It was like miraculous. And another obstacle that I remember overcoming was managing people, managing patients, managing staff, managing band members, managing people in general. They didn't teach me that coming along. There was nothing about that. So my wife, Kathleen, and I, the kids were little tykes. We discovered a course called, what is it called? Effectiveness training, parent effectiveness training. And we took that course and we were like, this is interesting. We're getting a different type of result here with the kids and even with ourselves, with our own interchanges, just some of the stuff we learned here. So I said, this is great. I'm going to take the advanced course, leader effectiveness training. Maybe that will get me somewhere. And all of a sudden, I'm communicating with patients better. My staff, I'm communicating with them better. Things are getting better. My music cohorts still were a little bristly, but it was getting better. So those were two big, huge obstacles for me that I had to handle.
Wow, I never would have known that about the public speaking piece. Interesting. Now, we've arrived at our 13th and final question. And Leslie, I'd like to bring you in here. Could you please tell us how we can, of course, get Excel in Two Careers, the book, and also the co-themed album, Plan B Dream Music, and any additional information that you'd like to share with the viewers?
Certainly. So, of course, the book itself can be purchased and is available at major online retailers. But if our viewers would like to take advantage of the book with the CD, which is basically a special package that we have, you would have to go specifically to either chipshelton.com, so that'd be chipshelton.com, or planbeyourdream.com. And so at either one of those websites, you would be able to purchase the two together. And as a special little treat, the book will actually be signed by the author himself. So we definitely do encourage viewers to take advantage of that. And yeah.
Beautiful. Awesome. Now, well, this has really been an amazing and exciting interview. I just want to thank you all so much for putting this book together. We have answered 13 questions and shared 13 principles for success and discussed 13 areas in life that we need to plan out strategically. So we've certainly learned so much here, and it appears now that 13 is the lucky number. Thank you so much, Chip Shelton, Leslie, Clifford Shelton. Thank you so much for being here today. And also thank you to your family for taking the time to write this very informative book for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kiana.
We search for New York Jazz Flutet.
Presentation on playing the larger flutes, hopefully without pain.